Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adam. I'm Head of Marketing at the ISM, and I'd like to welcome you to this webinar today. I know you'll get plenty of practical advice from today's session, which you can start applying to your own role straight away. This webinar, once delivered, will be made available on demand, so you can watch it as many times as you like and at your own convenience. During the webinar, you'll be able to ask any questions you like by typing into the boxes, and we'll answer those at the end. And please also take a few moments of your time to have a look through the attachments. I'd like to thank Keith Rosen for his time today. He's been a fantastic supporter of myself personally as head marketing at ISM. He is a prolific author in the US, and he gratefully sent me his book, which I've been reading from page to page ever since. I hope you enjoy him as much as I've enjoyed his company over the last couple of years. He will be the next voice you hear. And Keith, it's over to you.
Thank you so much, Adam. It's a pleasure joining here. Let's go ahead and dive right into this. There is a massive challenge out there in our global community. When I'm working with companies globally, 75 countries, hundreds of thousands of salespeople and managers that I've had the pleasure and privilege of working with, 6 continents. And one thing I have found is that less than 1% of all the companies I work for, and I'm talking about global organizations, have a true coaching culture. So I think it's important that we can throw the word coaching around all day and enrollment and how to create alignment and be a strategic thinker, but we need to start pouring a foundation first. And I felt obligated today to join you to start pouring a foundation so people and managers can start shifting their thinking around not only what they need to do, but who they need to be to become the best leader and coach for their team. And the fact is, what got you here today will not get you where you want to be tomorrow. And I've been doing this for, again, 30 years. And I remember when I first started my career, I spent a lot of time coaching salespeople and delivering a lot of sales training. And after I delivered the program, like a consummate salesperson, I would follow up with my clients and ask, so what was the impact of the training? What were the measurable results? And the client would inevitably respond with, well, Keith, we've definitely seen some measurable results. However, only from several people, because you know how it is. Some people grabbed everything you shared and they ran with it. Some people adopted just several of the concepts, but most people fell back into their old, comfortable habits. And this really bothered me because as a salesperson, as a business owner, just like everyone listening to this, we want to over-deliver the value that our clients expect. We want to be able to make a difference and an impact in our customers and in people's lives. So the more that I started working with managers, the more it became very evident what the missing link was. Because training alone does not develop sales champions. Training alone will develop salespeople and pour that baseline. But think about it this way. If training was enough, look at your team. Is everyone truly performing at the exact same level? I'm going to make a massive assumption here and say I have never seen that in my career in any organization. And the fact is, training doesn't develop champions. Managers do. Leaders do. And the missing link is very simple. Any desired behavioral change cannot be sustained without coaching to make it stick. Imagine how amazing it would be if we can all eat healthy for one day and exercise for one day every month and be in exemplary physical, mental, and spiritual shape. It would personally save me many, many hours, but we can't. And just like sales training, think about the ROIs that companies are getting. It's exceptionally low, if nothing. And the reason why is you can deliver sales training to your salespeople all day long, but if your managers have no idea how to coach and embed and reinforce those skills, it was a waste of time, money, and energy. And then it just becomes a flavor of the month, which then creates more collateral damage because now everyone's looking around and saying, oh, flavor of the month, let's just go through this. I'm sure nothing will change and my manager won't hold me accountable for it. So managers just can't start going out there and coaching. This is a learned skill and mindset. So the overarching question that I hear is, how do I lead people to live their fullest potential in a rapidly changing marketplace to achieve our changing business objectives with less stress, and more fun? Well, the answer for me is I coach. And I've been on many webinars and interviews, and I've had many of the hosts say to me, Keith, how many times are you going to use the word coach in one interview? And my answer is I can't help it, because all roads go back to two things: coaching and time management and self-management. So synonymous there. So why should managers coach? Well, let's take a look at the current status in the workplace. Less than 52% of the global sales force will hit quota in 2019. The prediction for 2020, it's going to be even worse. Large companies have approximately one manager for about every 10 employees. And Gallup found that only 1 out of 10 managers actually possess the skills and talent to manage, forget even about coaching, which costs companies billions of dollars a year, as well as a healthy, thriving, trusting, collaborative culture. Let's keep going with these stats, because they're going to hurt more and more as we go through them. Gallup also reminds us every couple of years that 70%, right now I think it's 72%, of employees are actively disengaged. That means 28 of your people are engaged. Think about how that impacts your bottom line, your performance, productivity, and growth. Now, here's an interesting statistic from McLean & Company. Employees who feel empowered to make decisions about how they do their work are almost 4.5% more engaged. But look at this now. A top-performing sales culture is built on a foundation of trust. You can't have engagement. You can't foster deep engagement, collaboration, transparency, creating a vulnerability-based culture of leadership and trust without developing that level of trust and authenticity. It always starts with the leader. And look at this statistic. We talk about trust. 58% of people say they trust strangers more than their boss. So I'll say that in a different way. When my children were 5 years old, I'd be more comfortable and confident in putting my children in a taxi cab, not knowing the driver, than having my own manager watch my children. Now, there's one word for that. That's sad. And finally, Gallup reported that 90% of leaders think an engagement strategy will impact business, and that's the good thing. However, only 25% have a platform or strategy to influence their employees. Let me say that in a different way. Managers are not coaching because companies are not making the investment to support the most important people in the organization, their leadership, because the leadership is the ones who are going to be developing the future leaders of the organization. And that can't be done if the managers don't know how to coach, even let alone what it is. Because the mindset, skill set, and habit of effective coaching will achieve these things. So companies tell me all the time, oh, Keith, we have a great culture. We have a healthy culture. We're thriving. We're hitting our goals. Wait a second. I know a lot of companies that are successful in spite of themselves. And just because an organization or a team is hitting their sales quota or hitting their business objectives has nothing to do with whether they have a healthy culture or not. Because most companies, if not all, have a metrics-driven, KPI-driven, scorecard-driven, results-driven culture, which often breeds fear. And that's the culture that's created. You are not going to create an environment where you're going to achieve your business goals, improve forecast accuracy, where you can turn around poor performers in less than 30 days, where you can retain top talent, where you can build a deeper level of trust. And I ask all of our listeners here and people listening to this webcast to suspend judgment. When you coach, you reduce your workload. Why? Because coaching is not something you do to someone. It's not like, oh, wow, now I have this other responsibility called coaching. This is a misnomer in management's minds when they say they don't have time to coach. Let me mitigate that right now, okay? Every manager has time to coach. Why? Because if you have time to give the answers, which you're doing all day long, you have time to ask a question. And if you have a time to ask a question, you have time to coach. So keep in mind, my job is to make everyone's job easier here. Coaching in its most simplistic form is a language. Just like if you want to learn a different language, Spanish, French, Italian, whatever that might be, okay? You're learning the language of coaching. That's the only thing that's changing, is how you engage with your people. What else? You would be present? Well, you'd be driving sales and improving client retention. And quite frankly, you'd be having more fun at your job because you've developed an authentic top-performing coaching culture. If you're having those attributes that you could see listed within your organization, you have a good coaching culture. I'm going to go out and make it a gross assumption and say most people listening to this do not. And one of the things that managers need to start doing is leading with questions and not leading with answers. And managers are often so quick to give out that answer and be that chief problem solver. But the fact is, it doesn't matter. And this goes to salespeople, managers, peers. It doesn't matter if you have the perfect answer, because people will resist what they hear but believe what they say. So if you're ever in a conversation where you're trying to support someone and coming from the best interests at heart, and you're telling people what to do, and then you're wondering why A, they're not doing it, and B, they're not engaged, or C, they're pushing back, it's because it's not theirs. It's yours. And in their mind, what they're thinking is, I guess my boss doesn't trust me. I guess they don't have the faith and confidence in me to do my job. But you see, in the manager's mind, they're thinking, well, hey, I can help this person. I already know what to do. I've sat in their shoes. I've had their position. Let me save them time. Let me tell them what to do. That's a massive disconnect right now. But when people create their own answers because you're leading with questions, when they create their own insights, when they shatter their own assumptions, they own it. They created it. It's theirs. That builds confidence. So I find it very interesting, and building off this idea that I shared before, is most managers that I meet really, really, truly, authentically want to support people. They want to help people grow. They want to have people succeed and help them achieve that next level in their career. So when I ask managers, why am I a manager? This is what I hear. I love helping people to do more than they thought they could on their own. I love developing the future leaders of the organization. I get deep satisfaction by aligning personal and business goals to achieve even more. And that is called the art of enrollment, which I often write about. Managers also say it's because they value family and lifestyle and integrity and health, teamwork. This is all the things they want for themselves and for their people. They want to make an impact. They want to create a flourishing culture. And they want to coach. They want to innovate. They want to contribute. And they want to create an environment of trust. But here's the problem. What values and priorities do managers, do people compromise most due to the daily pressures to perform? See, here, every single one of the same attributes. And this is big trouble. And it's all because of the result-driven, metrics-driven cultures that are just dominating our global society today. And this isn't bad news. This is good news, because think about what's possible if you can change. And change will start with shifting your thinking, because beliefs precede experience. How you think is what you get. So we need to first shatter this one belief that managers have. And this is the inner game of leadership and coaching. So when I ask managers, when someone approaches you with a problem, what they do, well, it's real simple, Keith. I want to save time. I already know what they need to do. I give them the answer. Well, there's one role as the leader you need to abandon, and that is the role of chief problem solver. I know a lot of managers out there love solving problems. They're like heat-seeking missiles. They look for problems to seek them out. Unfortunately, the more they seek out problems, the less they're seeking out opportunities to support, develop, coach, and reinforce the positive attributes, the wins, and the core competencies that will make their team successful. So why is it that managers feel they must solve problems and are compelled to share the answer? Well, it's because most leaders have learned the wrong lesson. And I've had managers even tell me, Keith, I was told during the interview process that the reason why I was hired was because I am a great problem solver and I am a subject matter expert. Well, that is the wrong lesson. And here's a crazy thought. We create the very problems we want to avoid. There are so many paradoxes in leadership and coaching. How do we create the very problems we want to avoid? Well, let's explore this at a deeper level for a second. Mr. or Mrs. Manager, there you are. And as your day progresses, as most managers will find, spending their day putting out fires and solving problems. Well, let's see why. Your people come to you looking for help. In your head, you're thinking, well, I need to get back to what I'm doing. I have a big workload today. I already know what they need to do. They shared with me their problems, so I might as well just tell them what they need to do. So they can get it done, and then I can get back to what I'm doing, and it just saves a lot of time. Well, think about the message. Think about the culture on your team you're setting. Basically, you just told all your people, if you have a problem, don't worry about fixing it yourself. Come to me, and I'll fix it for you. So here's some irony. Every leader I've ever spoken to wants to create a team of accountable, independent, collaborating thinkers. Yet, look at what they're creating now. They're creating the very dependency they want to avoid. Now, here's where it gets really costly. And when a manager, okay, here they are, they're giving the solution to one of their salespeople, right? And their salespeople take it and they act on it and they implement it. And then they come back to their manager and say, hey, boss, listen, I did what you told me to do. It didn't work. It's not my idea. My hands are clean on this one. That was your idea. It's not my fault. It's yours. So now managers have effectively robbed their people of the very accountability that they want to instill. That's insanity. And I remember, and I wrote this story in my Coaching Salespeople into Sales Champions, of a boy who was in his backyard. And he was playing under a tree, and he noticed this chrysalis, this cocoon. And he knew at some point in time, a butterfly would emerge, come out and spread its wings and fly away. So he sat under this cocoon for an hour, 2 hours, until his mom called him in for dinner. And the next day after school, he ran into his backyard and sat under that tree and was watching and waiting for that butterfly to emerge out of the cocoon. Well, the cocoon started moving. Something was happening, and the butterfly started to come out and emerge from the cocoon. But something happened. All of a sudden, the butterfly stopped moving. It didn't seem to be making any progress. So the boy, in his haste and in his impatience, went inside, grabbed a pair of scissors, and very carefully, with surgical precision, cut around the cocoon, thinking he was helping the butterfly. Well, the butterfly emerged, but there was a problem. You see, its body was all swollen. Its wings were deformed. What the boy did not realize in his haste and in his impatience to get what he wants was nature's way, natural evolution. The struggle the butterfly goes through to get out of the cocoon forces the fluid from its body into its wings so that when it does emerge, it can spread its wings and fly away. But not this butterfly. This butterfly was destined to hobble around with swollen body and deformed wings. And I'm not suggesting that your people are hobbling around with a swollen body and deformed wings. But I want you to consider the point that I'm illustrating here is, as a leader, think about a challenge you had, a recent one. Think about how it felt when you worked through it and you got through the other side of that challenge. I bet it felt really good and rewarding. Well, every time you solve your people's problems for them, you're robbing them of that very experience. And every time you rob them of that experience, you're making them more dependent on you and less accountable. And you're certainly not developing them in any way. So you're really empowering your people? Absolutely not. What's the definition of empower? To give strength or power to. Well, how do you make this shift then away from being the SME, the subject matter expert? I am here to share with everyone the 3 fundamental principles of coaching right now. Here they are. Rule number 1, let your people do their job. That's why you hired them. Rule number 2, let your people do their job. And if anyone there is feeling clairvoyant, see rules 1 and 2. Rule 3, let your people do their job. Because if you want to chart this, let's take a look at what would happen as a life of a chief problem solver. I'll be the first to say that, Keith, it takes us 5 minutes to give the answer. Well, let's scale that. You have 5 people on your team, 10 people, 20, 30, 50, 100. You can't scale that. You can't scale people outside of your door waiting online or the slew of emails that you get with everyone asking for your help. You can't scale that. So now your day is consumed doing everyone else's job. Now let's take a look at the life of a world-class coach. And I'll be first to say, given it's a new skill set and a mindset, it might take you a little longer. And by the way, a little longer, we're talking maybe an extra 5 minutes. So is all the managers out there going to argue with me that they don't have time to coach when it's just an additional 5 minutes? And you tell me, and look at this chart here, what happens when you coach? Well, you're helping people self-actualize. You're helping them develop their critical thinking and critical questioning skills. You're helping them self-assess. Because of that, you're building their confidence. The next time they have a problem, they're not going to come to you. That's how you get your day back. That's how you get your time back. And that's how managers can start spending what they need to do 70% of their time supporting and coaching their people. So you have a choice. You can go ahead and take 3 minutes to go ahead and solve that problem and move on to the next one. And I guarantee that direct report and those 5 and 10 and 20, they're going to keep coming back. Or you could coach them, empower them, build their confidence, and develop a team of champions. So keep in mind, you cannot scale dependency. Now, as we're moving towards the end of this and opening it up to some Q&As, as managers, you need to hang up your cape. You need to hang up your cape as chief problem solver. If you really want to be the hero, you need to park your ego and live from a place of your higher self. Because if you really want to be the hero, then bring out the hero in others. How do you do that? Well, I got some good news and bad news for you. Every single challenge that you as a leader have on your team is your fault. Sorry, I'm here to tell the truth. But I have some good news for you. Every single problem and challenge that you have on your team is your fault. Avalanches roll downhill. You have the power to create the culture on your team. Your people interact with the manager every day. I'm not talking about all of a sudden turning the massive culture in your organization. It feels like turning a battleship. Okay, that can feel overwhelming. But how do you shift a culture? How do you change a culture? One person at a time, one conversation at a time. So think about what your primary objective as a leader is. It's not to hit your business objectives. It's to make your people more valuable. As I mentioned before, avalanches roll downhill. Your people interact with you every day. Guess what? In essence, you, my friend, my managers, are the culture. And every day, your job is to make your people more valuable. Because what's the byproduct of making your people more valuable? You achieve your business objectives faster. And to make your people more valuable, it starts with making yourself more valuable by becoming a world-class coach. And that's not something you wake up and say, okay, I read this awesome article or awesome book, took a half-day course, now I'm a great coach. No, it doesn't work that way. Think of every great athlete, okay? If you want to be a world-class coach, just like a world-class athlete, you need to practice, study as hard as they do, because that will create a top-performing coaching culture. And it starts with this shift in your thinking, this one question. Every manager wakes up asking themselves, how am I going to hit my goals? How am I going to close more business? How am I going to achieve my business objectives today? That is the wrong question to ask when you wake up. This is the question the greatest leaders ask themselves when they wake up every morning. What do I need to do to make my people more valuable today than they were yesterday. That's the mindset of a world-class leader and exemplary coach. So to start bringing this part of our conversation to conclusion, remember, people create the mindset. Mindset shapes behavior. Behavior defines culture. And ultimately, culture determines success. And that is why the primary business objective is to make your people more valuable every day. So now I'm going to open it up to some questions that I could field and hopefully support those who are listening in. So Adam, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions have been flying in. Let me just hang on a minute. Technology always lets you down at the key moments in life. Hang on.
Well, while you're doing that, I see a question here. Someone just asked, they said they love the webinar. I'm so glad, honoring one of my 3 core values, my wife, my children, and making an impact. And I deeply hope I'm honoring that value today. The question was, who was my first sales coach? And what did you choose to learn from them? And what was your first key learnings? That's a really cool question because I pride myself on transparency. So 30 years ago, I had this amazing coach named Karen. She was a fiery redhead, and I loved her. My wife thought she was my second wife. And I'm going back over 30 years now. And she was my first coach. And we're going back at a time when coaching wasn't even a profession. People would say to me, oh, Keith, you're becoming a coach? What team are you coaching? I'd say, well, no, it's more of a team of business and team of life. And people would look at me and say, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. You sold your other business to pursue this? Well, 30 years later, here I am, impacting people every day and living what I'm supposed to be living and doing while I'm on this planet. So my first key learnings were, quite frankly, stop making everything about me and make everything about other people. That, to me, is that give love, get love strategy. You know, and to me, I always seek to serve. Every morning, think about that question that I put up there. What can I do to make my people more valuable every day? That's not focusing on the manager. That's selfless. That's focusing on their people. And when managers do that, they tell me, Keith, I don't even look at the numbers. I don't have to worry about the numbers because I know it's going to happen as long as I am working with my people every day and I have evidence of growth, change, and have a healthy culture where I have aligned my people's goals with their business objectives. That's called enrollment, everyone, okay? How do you enroll people? Most managers will say, hey, we have this new initiative. We're rolling out this new CRM, okay? And salespeople are going to say, well, why? I've been doing it my way for so long. It's been working this way. And what does the manager say? Because you have to. Well, that doesn't create a lot of buy-in. You see, when people don't understand your intentions, people default to fear. And at that point, the manager only shared what's going on. They did not share why they're doing it, and they certainly didn't share the whiffum of what's in it for me. Because not only your customers are tuned into it, so are your internal customers, your employees. What's in it for me? Every single time a manager approaches one of their direct reports, one-on-one or in a team, they're thinking, my manager's coming to me. What do they want? What's in it for me? If you don't connect, here's what I'm doing.
What about even the question of how would this actually benefit our customers? And if I was a customer, what would I want from it? Do you ever go that way? Do you ever go the other way as well?
As a matter of fact, Adam, it's when you align their business objectives with what they want most, their priorities, their values, well, then they're thinking, okay, if I do this at work, I get this at home. Now think about the exponential impact you're going to get and the output you're going to get. And that also transcends into sales. I was the first to put out there that the evolution of sales training isn't more sales training. It's salespeople learning how to be exemplary coaches for their customers. So they can then become a consultative coach so they can coach customers to succeed. So there's everything here that we've discussed, my coaching framework, the art of enrollment, that all applies to sales as well. The evolution of selling, coach your customers to succeed. So then look at the same scenario that you just asked me. Well, then, do I know what the personal benefit is as a salesperson of what I'm selling to that individual? I know what I'm selling may benefit the organization or the team, but did I really take the time to connect what we're doing to the benefit that they want to realize personally. And I'm going to tell you right now, most salespeople do not even come close to doing that, let alone even think about it.
There's an interesting question that's flown in. I can kind of resonate with this person, whoever asked this question, but they've asked, as a customer, choosing a sales trainer is tough, as we're aware that there's always a lot of bluster around how awesome they are. Their LinkedIn profiles always demonstrate a sketchy background, and they seem to be lifelong consultants. How would you pick? What would you look for?
Okay, whoever
answered that is a legend.
Whoever asked this question, listen to me carefully. I want you to go on LinkedIn right now. If we're not connected, I want you to send me an invite to connect because I love you. Okay, I love you because this to me, it's funny. I just recently posted something on it about, everyone out there is a guru. Everyone out there is a best-selling author. Look at my bio. I don't sit there and self-proclaim, man. You know what I say? I'm human. Let's connect. That's what I want to do.
Well, it's one of the things I do on my own profile. I can't, there's that whole LinkedIn profile where you can say how awesome you are. And I think my LinkedIn profile, I took the stance of, if you want to find out about me, ask a member.
And you know what? You and I are aligned because I said, if you want to find out about me, either give me a call, shoot me an email, send me an invite, which I'll always happily accept, and feel free to go online and search my name. I bet you'll find out stuff about me that I probably don't even know about.
I attended the conference a couple of months ago, and I don't really take much away from conferences, but this conference I did, and they actually said customers don't want to know the answer is 4. They want to know it's 2 plus 2, or they want to figure out it's 2 plus 2.
And I think that's coaching to me. I think it's perfectly aligned with coaching, right? Because if the customers own their solution, right, if they create it, if they're the ones, I was just on the phone yesterday. I was going through a conversation. After the conversation, I asked the one question, which again, most salespeople or managers don't ask, whether they're coaching their direct reports or they're coaching their customers, which is, what's the implication if nothing changes? What's the cost if you keep doing it the way you're doing it now? How will this impact you, your career, your team, your organization? And yesterday, I don't sell, I coach. I asked my series of questions, and my last question was that. And the prospect, the customer, basically spent the next 20 minutes sharing me the cost of having his people disengaged, of not having a coaching framework, of high attrition, losing retention of clients, losing cross-sell and upselling opportunities. I mean, this is the cost when managers don't do this thing called coaching. And I'm going to share everyone a real simple definition. It's the art of creating possibility. That's it. Either in every conversation, you're either pushing and driving your agenda, or you're suspending it, respecting other people's point of view, seeking to understand it to create a new possibility. And managers, you're doing that when you come to work and love your job. You and I, we have the same job. You just do it internally, and I do it externally. My job is to help people create the life they want and the career they want. And it's for you.
Okay. Thank you for that. Third
so
question.
Going back,
Sorry,
and I guess
go
for it.
Story, go for it.
How do you find a good sales trainer? I say, listen, if people ask me, Keith, how do I know you're a fit? I say several things. I say, okay, well, how are you feeling about our conversation? I just coached them for an hour. Most of the appointments, most of the opportunities I get to work with my clients who I cherish dearly is through referrals, through my books, through my blogs. And what is that? It's giving value. That's my first intention. How can I give value? I was never one to be motivated about money. I was always motivated about making an impact. The success was always a byproduct. And if you're not focusing on your core values and your passions, you're quite frankly sacrificing your life for your wrong goal. And, getting back to that authenticity, it's really hard to sift through the BS on LinkedIn and out there. And when prospects call me and say, Keith, why should I hire you? I say, you're asking the wrong person. They say, what do you mean? I said, ask my clients. I said, go online, read the 100 different testimonials.
Yeah, but then Amazon started doing fake reviews or something, didn't they? There was a whole backlash where a company, I'm talking granular here. I'm talking reviews
absolutely,
were
absolutely.
But personal reviews about someone you've actually met is unbeatable.
Exactly. And when you, and for me personally, and I would never compromise my integrity, you can go through every single one of mine and you will see not only the person, the picture, you will know the company. And in many cases, they even say, here's my personal phone number. Here's my email. If you want to talk about it, call me. That's how committed they are. So, you know, to me, that means I'm doing my work. And for them, and it's interesting, and people don't even ask me for references anymore. I guess that's the blessing of being older now. But in the short time that they do, once in a while, I would say, you're asking the wrong question. And the prospect would say, well, what do you mean I'm asking the wrong question? Keith, I want 3 references. And I would say that's not the right question. The right question is, you want to ask me, Keith, can you share with me the last 3 engagements you worked on? Because that's objective. Everyone can find people they like.
Yeah, consumers are incredibly tied into technology now. Before they even buy anything, they look into it, they research it, they watch videos, they see who else you've worked. You know, even if it's a product or a service or anything. I mean, it's coming up to Christmas. Most of my Christmas shopping will probably be online, I'd hate to say, because it's an easier thing. But for me, before I purchase anything, I will check it out. And I think that's the same kind of concept and psychology that customers use when purchasing a book or going for a trainer or anything like that.
It's interesting you say that. I was on the phone with a client yesterday, and we started with what do we need to do to generate more leads and more sales. And where the conversation went was, your website is from 1985. You have no call for action. You have no follow-up strategy. You have no CRM or even tracking system for your leads. Let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we've actually put on our website, which is actually quite cool, and we'll get on to the other questions. You've got 3 other questions too, by the way. But the interesting thing that we've done is that as someone leaves our website, there is as soon as someone goes to click the X, there is something on our website, and I asked my web guy to put it into play, is that an exit thing comes up on the page. Sorry, we couldn't help you. How can we help? So it kind of encourages people to tell us what, and it's actually worked in some cases. So, you ready for the next question?
A quick sales tip. Yeah, here's a quick sales tip for salespeople. It's been working brilliantly for me. If those clients or prospects that are going dark in the subject line, here's my little secret. I put in there, and I have my salespeople do it, and they absolutely love it. Incredible response rate is this no longer a priority for you?
That's quite, well done.
And that's it. And in the body, it's, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect Customer. I've been diligently trying to work with you and make sure I'm being responsive to you and your needs. No doubt you're busy, but as a professional courtesy, can you just please let me know if this is no longer a priority for you? And inevitably, we get responses from either, oh, we're putting on the back burner, or, oh, we decided to do this internally, or whatever other reason they have. But at least, we now have some intel that we can then use to continually refine our processes internally.
Okay, cool. A couple of questions left. You've got 20 minutes left to do this. So here's one for you. What was your biggest failure, and what did you learn from it? I'm not sure if that meant sales or life or...
Oh, wow. We could. Wow. I got a great story. How much time do we have? Interesting. My biggest failure was actually a result of my mindset. And I remember, and just to unpack that a little more, I'll be the first, and I do this in every group that I work with every senior leader group, with every frontline management group, with every sales team. I'll be the first to say, everyone, I'm raising my hand. I am a recovering perfectionist. And inevitably, everyone either starts laughing or they put their head down, because everyone just will realize I'm a perfectionist too, and a control freak. And it almost comes with the territory, unfortunately, sometimes. And it's the other reason why managers can't let go. And if they can't let go, they can't coach. So, as a recovering perfectionist, this really led to a lot of my failures. And it led to also impacting my quality of life. So here I am. I'm thinking that I want to be perfect, right? And so going back years and years ago, before, probably right at the cusp of me starting my practice. And, I want to be perfect. And at that point, I had my other business, and I want to be the perfect business owner and the perfect partner. And of course, that transcended in, well, of course, I had to be the perfect salesperson. And of course, wait a second, I also had to be the perfect son, right? And the perfect brother and the perfect friend and the perfect, significant other at that point, because I wasn't married yet. And here I am trying to be perfect. And here I am putting my incredibly, ridiculously unrealistic expectations on myself. And here's the problem. I'm also putting it on everyone else. So I constantly lived in a state of disappointment, and everyone around me disappointed me. My friends, my family, my salespeople, my partners, because they weren't living up to my unrealistic expectations. And when I sold out of that company and I started my practice, as I said, about 30 years ago, I remember my first engagement was going out, and I was in New York, and I had this engagement out in California, and I was going to be one of 2 or 3 keynote speakers, and I was really excited to do this. And again, my first keynote. So here I am as a perfectionist, right? And okay, I want to prepare for this, right? I want to prepare for this keynote, and of course, it has to be what? It has to be Adam perfect, right? So first thing I do, it's about 3 months out, and I want to make sure that I nail this. So, of course, I wrote down an outline. Now, keep in mind, first keynote, first time really getting in front of people in this size audience. And I wrote out the outline. And I said, this is good, but I don't know exactly what I'm saying. So I took the outline, and then I wrote an entire script verbatim, 40 pages, a 45-minute keynote, because I wanted to get it perfect. So I started reading and studying and trying to memorize the keynote. And I was thinking to myself, well, this is good, but I don't know what I sound like.
Okay. Well, Keith, look, we've got 2 more. Yeah, we've got 2 more questions.
Let me finish the story. So then I recorded myself, and if you're laughing now and you're saying, oh, my God, I don't understand, that's not bad, Keith. You're a perfectionist, too. Then I videoed myself. Fast forward, I get there, I do my keynote, I'm on the stage, my notes blew off the podium because there was a fan above my head. I was supposed to have a wireless mic, but the wireless mic was caught under the podium, and I was like a dog on a leash, and I couldn't walk off the stage. And on top of that, because it was an evening event, they started serving dinner. And as public speakers, you can't compete against dinner and food. So I thought I was a failure. It was an absolute failure. I was ready to, quit my job and sell jet skis in the Caribbean. And my client happened to have been out there, a dear friend of mine. We went out, and he said, Keith, nobody knew that you memorized the script, and nobody knew if you stepped over anything. Everyone wasn't evaluating you. They all wanted to be, they wanted you to be successful, and you got a few clients out of it, which means you made an impact. And it was that moment right there. And I'm going back from my first coach who called me out. I realized that was my perfectionism, and I finally let it go, and I welcomed myself back to the human race. And from then on, I just show up and be who I am and let my authenticity shine, because if you're not being you, then who are you being? So just trying to wrap up that story, Adam.
Okay. Maybe you've got time for one more question.
Sure.
Here's one for you. How do you stay relevant in a world where everything is free?
Oh, gosh.
Nice, easy question, isn't it?
It's actually it's a duality. It's creating new content every day, and that's the wonderful creative part of what I love about my career as an author, as a coach, as an advisor. So much is creating content, innovative content that people they can steal it, but I'm always creating new stuff. And that's the good news. And the challenging news is always creating new content, because every day it's what are the needs of people out there, personally, professionally, in their career, that there's a gap that I could support them and fill it so they could achieve what they want, and even more so than they thought was possible. And that's what I wake up every morning and doing. And you know what? It's never. I love it. And if you don't love what you do, you spend 3/4 of your life at your job. No one on their deathbed ever said, "Gee, I wish I spent another day in the office." So What's that Buddhist saying? A true master doesn't know the difference between work and leisure. Not suggesting I'm a master, but to me, I wake up empowered and inspired to jump to work and do what I do because I know I'm changing lives.
Okay, second question. Let's have a look at this. Were you fearful of writing a book that wouldn't sell? How did you research it and ensure its success?
So let's start off with A, don't research anything. B, stop reading everyone else's content. And C, sit in front of a typewriter or a notepad, get out of your office, get out of your space, get out of your head. Find a place that is your happy place, wherever it is, and just be. What is it? What is the message in your heart you want to deliver? Because if and I've coached many people on writing books, and it's easier than you think, but of course it takes a level of diligence in order to do so. So every book that I've ever written came from a passion, whether it was effective presentation skills, prospecting, time management, of course, leadership, and definitely, of course, what it means to be a great coach and how to transform into a great coach. These were things that I was passionate about. So I didn't care if the book was going to sell or not. I didn't care about distribution. I didn't care if it was going to generate business for me. I just knew I had a message in my heart that I needed to deliver because it honored my value of making an impact. Success was just a byproduct of all this. And I will advise anyone out there who's thinking about writing a book. And I know a lot of people that, hey, Keith, one day I want to write a book. Just sit down and do it. Everyone has 10 minutes a day that they could write one page, or everyone has 10 minutes a week to write one page. But the compound effect will be in place. And before you turn around, you have a whole book. And don't worry about grammar. And don't worry, oh, Keith, I'm not a professional writer. Guess what, everyone? I wasn't a professional writer until I wrote my first book. So if you feel you should write a book, or you feel, oh, this is a topic I should write about, do yourself a favor, and please do me, your coach, a favor. Don't should on yourself, SHOULD, because a should is simply the excrement of someone else's agenda. And if you feel you're doing something you should be doing, it's not a value-based goal, it's a should-based goal, and you will always experience resistance pursuing it. So the book you want to write has to come from your heart, from your passion, and then just write. Don't worry about what's next. Be in the moment. Share where you're coming from. Share your story from your heart, because your story is unique. Okay, you can read all these other books out there. You're not going to find your story in another book. You'll find, this is why I don't read other books. I don't read. I know. Here, fun fact about Keith: I don't read other sales books. I don't read other leadership books, because I do not want to be tainted by other people's concepts and methodology. Now, of course, years and years ago, I had a foundation, but then I developed my own foundation. I developed coach training before there was coach training. I developed leadership coach training before that even existed. So you have to listen to your heart, because your heart will never lie to you. But what's in your head, you got those gremlins, you got that negative internal narrative that you need to change, that can get in your way.
Fab. Well, just have a couple look through I think all the questions are done. There's one for me for you to read. But Keith, I would very much like to thank you for your time. Keith will be in touch with you all after this webinar for any follow-ups or anything like that. And the questions, or the people who ask the questions, I'll make sure that he comes back to you with a response over email. But the webinar is now going to go on to demand. I'd like to thank Keith very much for his time. We had to reschedule it, but it was my fault that we had to reschedule it. It wasn't Keith. But he's been brilliant. I think one of the first things I did when I first started the ISM, Keith, and this is just a shout out from me to you, is to just be quiet and take it. You can tell the relationship we have now, can't you, folks? When I first started the ISM, first thing I did is I went on LinkedIn or I went on Google and I just typed in sales authors, sales, and Keith was right at the top. And Google only does that if it's, if they are top dog, so to speak. And then I checked him out on LinkedIn, saw bits of content, and I do believe that we're now following each other on Instagram, which is bizarre. So
yeah, that's a new one for me.
Yeah, I know. So,
this whole Instagram thing, I'm still trying to figure it out.
But thank you very much for your time today. I'll make sure that
That's deeply my pleasure.
You find out who watched the webinar behind this. And it's a goodbye from me. Keith, over to you.
Deeply my pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully everyone here, you're leaving a little inspired, more enthusiastic, that you can truly create the type of culture and type of team that you want, so you can go to work feeling really good about what you're doing, feeling fulfilled, experiencing that level of purpose. And that's, of course, what I want for each of you. So thank you, everyone, for listening in. Thank you for allowing me to contribute to you. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn. I'm active on Twitter. So please reach out,
Keith
connect
Rosen.
with me. What's that?
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Oh, and also you were a BESMA finalist, weren't you? But you couldn't make it because you were overseas, which is, it would have been epic. If you'd won, I'd have gone up onto that stage and gone, like, Keith can't make it tonight. But he would have wanted me to collect this award for him on his behalf. But yeah, no, you made BESMA finalist, which was awesome. It's a shame you make the award ceremony, but maybe next time you can turn up and your face can be on the screen or something.
That sounds wonderful.
I know. But huge shout out to your marketing person, Laurie, for sort of managing me, managing you, and managing everything else in between. That's awesome. But look, it's been a pleasure. I hope you come back in the new year. We'll hopefully get back. And if you're in London, give us a shout. And we're getting a bit personal here. I'll message you over LinkedIn, and we'll go from there. All right. Well, it's a goodbye for me. And thank you very much, everyone. And
thank you, everyone. Wishing you all extreme success.
Take care. Bye.
Cheers.